Super Metroid. That is a name that is known by many, and even if you're not a fan of the Metroid franchise, it's definitely a game you've heard about at least one time or another. Super Metroid is synonymous for being the game that solidified the whole idea of a Metroidvania. However, what's really interesting is that Super Metroid's other siblings, Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, have both received amazing remakes that have pretty much brought these old school classics up to modern standards. However, Super Metroid has never received that treatment. But what if I were to tell you that there was a remake planned for this cult classic? A remake that was in development for nearly 13 years, but never saw the light of day. So grab yourself your nearest arm cannon and make sure you got your ice beam equipped, because today we're talking about the lost remake of Super Metroid. Super Metroid made its first major debut in 1994 on the Super Nintendo, and to say that this game was not a cultural phenomenon would be an understatement. Sure, it might not have been as big as other titles like Zelda or Mario, but this game single-handedly, along with Castlevania, defined an entire new genre known as a Metroidvania. Metroidvanias, for those that don't know, mainly refers to a massive interconnected map with different areas to explore, items to collect, that involves a lot of backtracking to previous areas you couldn't access at first. There are many games like this out in the world today, but many of them use Super Metroid as the standard and the source of inspiration. This is because of the way the game is structured, its use of abilities, its hostile environment, not to mention its visual storytelling. It was all done so well in Super Metroid. In fact, many people think Super Metroid is pretty much a perfect game, and I can't blame them. The game is nearly flawless. With how amazing this game is, the only odd thing about it is that its other siblings, Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, have both seen amazing remakes that add brand new content, brand new control schemes, a better overall feel, all while making the games more accessible to a new generation. But where Metroid 1 and 2 both got this awesome modernized treatment, Super Metroid has never been granted that privilege. In fact, this title hasn't even seen a true re-release outside of a few odd exceptions. For example, there was the, well, now defunct Virtual Console, as well as the SNES Mini Console, and now the Nintendo Switch online subscription service. But all these examples aren't even true re-releases, nor are they updated versions of Super Metroid, they're just the standard title. And it's really odd, because if any title deserves it, it's definitely Super Metroid. Not that the game needs it, but a modernized upbringing of Super Metroid to add accessibility would be a huge help. Not to mention, with how popular the Metroid IP has become over the years, it would just make sense to re-release Super Metroid as a remake of some sort. It would do nothing but help the IP. So whatever the case, whether it's because they don't want to damage the brand, whether it's they don't want to put the time and the effort into it, or maybe they don't think that the game would perform well, Nintendo is most likely not working on a Super Metroid remake. Regardless of that though, even if an official remake might not be in the works, that doesn't mean there's never been an attempt at such a thing. Fans from all over have attempted to remake Super Metroid in one fashion or another. However, most of these projects normally end up dying over time, with only a few exceptions being titles like Super Metroid GBA Edition and Super Metroid Revamped. However, even these are not pure-blooded remakes, but rather ROM hacks that port the Super Metroid experience to the GBA. Of course, that's not to say these experiences aren't fantastic, because they both are. However, like I alluded to at the very start of this video, there was one project that sought to truly re-envision Super Metroid from the ground up. And at the time, it truly seemed that this project was going to see a release unlike its contenders. And through this project's development, even if not many people knew of its existence, the people that did were ecstatic to see what this game would bring to the table. But before we can dive straight into this lost remake, I had to first explain why this was such a big deal and why there was so much hype around this project. We first have to look at another project that was indirectly the cause of the revival of this lost Metroid remake, and one that drew a lot of inspiration from this title. We have to first look at a title simply known as AM2R. AM2R, also known as Another Metroid 2 Remake. This was a game that was being developed by Dr. M64 over the period of 10 whole years. The game finally saw its release on August 6th of 2016, and it was met with critical praise from everyone. This game took the Game Boy original with its black and white aesthetic, its really ear-grating music, and its somewhat ambitious controls on lesser hardware, and blossomed it into an amazing experience that became the definitive way to play Metroid 2. It added amazing super tight and precise controls akin to Metroid Zero Mission, not to mention adding a plethora of different ways to customize the controls to fit the way you want to play. It completely remade areas that was found in the original while also adding new areas to the game to make it feel that much more alive and large. It added new enemies, new bosses, new items. Just overall, AM2R was an amazing, perfected experience that was nothing but a labor of love. Now, sadly, as we all already know, a DMCA takedown was sent by Nintendo to Dr. M64 and the team of AM2R, making them take down the game from its site and completely ceasing development. And only a year after this, Nintendo released their own remake of Metroid 2 known as Metroid Samus Returns. But of course, that DMCA takedown was not enough to stop AM2R, as this became an absolute phenomenon, and a new team picked up the mantle and started to add new content to the game, and it is still updated to this day. And even with this official remake of Metroid 2, AM2R has become the definitive remake of Metroid 2, and for good reason, as AM2R's polish, love, effort, design, mechanics, and everything were just unmatched, and Samus Returns really doesn't come close to it. Now, with how long AM2R has been out and all the new content that's been added and worked on, and the fact that they're creating a 2.0 version of AM2R that's going to completely reshape the game again, people started to ask a very big and intriguing question. What if Super Metroid received the AM2R treatment? But little did they know that a project already began years prior to AM2R's release. A project that would end up becoming re-revived thanks to AM2R. A project called FSMR, also known as the first Super Metroid remake. FSMR, the first Super Metroid remake. This game was going to completely remake Metroid and bring it up to modern standards, in a similar vein to AM2R, with brand new sprites, brand new environments, all while adding new areas and content and bosses to boot. It was on track to become the absolute experience for Super Metroid, and for damn good reason. The promise behind this title was absolutely unmatched, and for many fans that wanted to see an AM2R style remake of Super Metroid, FSMR seemed to be the answer. Now, this title is being developed by a user known as Kenji, and Kenji created an entire team for FSMR. The earliest screenshots of this game can be seen on Kenji's DeviantArt page that date all the way back to 2009. He began showing early in-game screenshots of this title that showed many different areas throughout the game. This includes showing brand new renditions of areas like Criteria, Torian, Brinstar, and even the space colony at the beginning of the game. He even uploaded screenshots of other things like the main title screen, as well as one of the bosses that would be in-game. Now, we would eventually get one more update on FSMR, specifically on December 14th of 2012, where Kenji uploaded a graphic update video on his YouTube page that showed an early look at the space colony. But sadly, production began to slow down, to the point to where FSMR seemed completely frozen. That was until March 20th of 2010. On this date, a blog would begin detailing the development of FSMR, and new posts would be added periodically, keeping people up with development. With the first major post on this blog reading out as such. Hello readers, welcome to the FSMR blog. FSMR, or First Super Metroid Remake, is a project dedicated to remaking the popular Nintendo game Super Metroid. We will be incorporating Metroid Zero Mission graphics, new bosses, enemies, areas, and power-ups, as well as advanced physics and gameplay into the remake while preserving many well-known aspects of Super Metroid. Our current engine is in production, but it's nearing completion. We currently have a working HUD with a map and weapons display. We also have added some power-ups to the mix, including all beams with combos, the speed booster, morph ball, bombs, spider ball, power grip, missiles, super missiles, and power bombs. Underwater physics as well as slopes and jumping have been coded. We also have completed the first 14 rooms of FSMR and have some screenshots to show for it. Thanks for reading, expect more updates soon. After this initial post, more updates on FSMR would begin to pick up rapidly, both on the blog as well as on Kenji's Deviant art. This would include things like sprite sheets for Samus and her power suits, as well as other mock-ups of what they wanted to create in-game and in-game screenshots. However, as time continued on, about midway through 2010, around June and July, things started to slow down again. And eventually, the blog that was created for FSMR would see its final post on July 4th of 2010, where it showcased Ridley's first working appearance in-game. The final post on the blog even mentioned that they wanted to release a full working demo of the space colony that would showcase things like Ridley, the escape sequence, and everything. But after this point, nothing more was done. And as far as Kenji's Deviant art goes, his updates began to slow down as well, with his final post being on June 6 of 2011, where he simply showed a screenshot of the FSMR title screen. And after that, FSMR went dormant again, and many people started to accept that FSMR was most likely never going to come out. And it really sucks because all the in-game screenshots and mock-ups look so incredibly promising, and people were ecstatic for the possibility of being able to try out a demo of this title. However, 5 years after the initial final post on both the blog and Kenji's Deviant, we would finally get an update on what happened to FSMR, as a new blog would be created on October 25th of 2016 by Kenji. Also, 8 days prior to this blog post going live, Kenji uploaded another early graphic test of FSMR onto his YouTube page, which finally gave us the first in-game video look at FSMR since the original post back in 2012 on his YouTube page. When the post went live, it read out as such. The first post is now here. The blog is online. FSMR has been going on and off for about 8 years now. I know it's been a while since the last update, but it's back and here to stay, thanks to a certain team who made a remake of a Metroid game recently. Bringing my inspiration back and building a team to bring this MZM-styled remake to life. Currently, we have a programmer working on a completely new engine, myself on graphics, and 2 musicians, but we're looking for more people to join in. If you're a pixel artist or programmer, these positions are open right now. The rest of the post just shows the new graphics of FSMR utilizing the original engine with the new style. And from this point going forward, the project will receive semi-consistent updates, sometimes monthly, sometimes yearly. Now, during this reinvigorated push for FSMR's development, we would get an array of screenshots and mock-ups, both for in-game sprites as well as new styles for Samus and more. However, time to time we would have some pretty big gaps in updates. One of the first significant gaps was between November 27th of 2016 to June 3rd of 2017, where progress on FSMR slowed down. However, the project was far from dead and work would continue forward. We also ended up getting another year-long gap between June 3rd of 2017 to October 15th of 2018. Now, this post made in 2018 was far more serious and heavy-handed in comparison to the rest of the updates we received on the project. And due to the nature of this particular update, I'm going to read it out verbatim. To all those wondering if FSMR is dead, it's not dead, though you could technically say it died. I've not been able to focus on FSMR much this year. At the beginning of the year, my personal life was completely derailed in such an insane way. Recovering has been a slow and painful process. A lot of time, money, and energy has been spent wasted on someone who can get away with criminal acts because they have the money to and can easily manipulate anyone and lack any sort of heart. I don't want to really put my personal life out here, but I feel like I owe it to you all who have been patient for some sort of explanation. I don't want to waste my time on this individual or the people that work with them any longer. That karma will catch up to them eventually. After this, the post continues on detailing more work that's been done in FSMR and showing a teaser of the gravity suit. Now, for anyone that was wondering and hoping I'd go over what happened to Kenji during FSMR's hiatus, I'm not going to. Whatever happened between the 2017 and the 2018 post seemed to obviously affect him in a very big way, and I personally don't have any business trying to dive into his personal affairs. So for the sake of moving on, we're just gonna leave it at that. After this major update, we would receive 3 more posts on the FSMR project from October to December. The first out of these 3 posts showed the brand new sprite that they would be working with going forward, not to mention showing the amazing progress that's been done since the early days of FSMR. It would also show a lot of mock-ups of the in-game environment that were all using the current engine. Now afterwards, the second to last update came out on November 30th of 2018, and it was the post-Thanksgiving update. This post detailed many exciting things for FSMR, like a new engine, the space colony nearing full completion, lots of new graphics being added, and FSMR's resolution now officially being the same as AM2R's. And finally, after this, we got the massive Christmas update on December 25th of 2018. And this was an absolute development dump of everything that they created up to this point. And it was awesome! It showed the brand new portrait for Samus utilizing her new sprites. It showed the map of the space colony and some of the new doors that they implemented. It had screenshots of in-game rooms and other environments. It also showed things like the power-ups having a facelift, as well as Samus's full turn animation. And we finally got some amazing shots at what the environment would be for FSMR utilizing the new tile set they created with the new engine. And it is amazing! Now, after this massive info dump on FSMR's development, we wouldn't get another major update until August 27th of 2019. The post first began by stating that they would go from monthly updates to just posting whenever, so updates began to come far slower. Now, aside from that, this post wasn't all that massive, aside from showing a singular screenshot, as well as some other sprite work. But it also introduced something really cool, that being dynamic lighting for Samus, and it looked amazing! Afterwards, the next update would come on October 3rd of 2019 in the form of a Q&A, all while showcasing more sprite work that they've done on the project, like some of the new map sets, as well as the new HUD. Now, some of the questions that were answered on this post were as follows. Will the Power Grip and Grapple Beam be coming to FSMR? Yes, Power Grip will make its return and will act like it did in the previous game. It will already come equipped at the very beginning of the game, making it and the Long Beam both permanent additions to Samus' power suit. Unlike the Long Beam, however, we plan to let players be able to toggle the Power Grip on or off. Grapple Beam is also making a return as well. Everything that was in the original Super Metroid is returning. This includes X-Ray Scope, Beam Combos, and Crystal Flash. Are there any new additions coming to the game? Yes, not only are some items being moved around and some rooms undergoing few changes, as will be shown later in this post, but there will be new things coming to the game. In just the last post alone, we shared that the Zuru will be returning from Metroid Other M. If there is anything else that is new, like new areas or items, they will be shared later down the line or when the game is released. When is FSMR going to be released? There is no set date as of now. It will unfortunately be quite a while until the question can be answered. Will FSMR be available for insert system here? We're going to try and make it available for whatever system we can. At the moment, PC/Windows is definitely going to have it. We hope to have it available for Mac and Android at the very least. With this post finally wrapped up, we wouldn't receive another update for the game until April 25th of 2020. This post pretty much detailed that they got a brand new background artist for the team, and they showcased several brand new backgrounds for FSMR, with one of these backgrounds taking inspiration from AM2R. This post pretty much ended with Kenji stating that he was very thankful for people keeping up with FSMR's progress. And the whole point of this post was to let people know that the project wasn't dead. Regardless though, we didn't know it at the time, but this would be the last post we'd receive on the project until 2022. And when that post finally did go live, it was the last thing anyone wanted to see. September 12th, 2022. Current state of FSMR. Hey everyone, been quite a while, huh? There has been some progress since the last update to the blog, but unfortunately, for the foreseeable future, FSMR is no longer moving forward with development. It's been a crazy couple of years that has been pretty rough on just about everyone. This extends to the FSMR team and myself. It has also been a challenge finding other artists and programmers who are interested in FSMR. Super Metroid is a pretty massive game. Add in any new additional content that was planned, tiny level details, programming all these things would become quite a lot of work even for a small professional team. Maybe one day we'll be able to start this project back up again. I know a lot of people were looking forward to FSMR, but it just isn't feasible at this current time, I'm afraid to say. The post continued showcasing the work they had done up to this point. This included a lot of the Chozo architecture being incorporated into the level design. They also showed more sprite work for Samus' Power Beam, as well as showing some brand new drastic redesigns for rooms in Super Metroid. Kenji then concluded his post by saying the following. While FSMR might not be moving forward for the time being, some of the FSMR team and I, along with new team members, will be working on a new project highly inspired by Metroid games. A sci-fi horror Metroidvania that takes place on Saturn's moon Titan, currently called Pavor Nocturnus. This will be the last post here until FSMR possibly reboots again in the future. I'm sorry to have to end this project once again, but until we can assemble a bigger team along with some other issues, FSMR is on ice once again. Thank you all for keeping up with the project. Hopefully someday in the near future, this project will come back to life and something will finally be released. Until then, keep an eye out for Pavor Nocturnus. As of the current date, this was the last post ever made on the FSMR blog. And even Kenji's Deviant page, which hadn't seen a post since 2019, would also stay completely dormant and hasn't seen a new post as of now. And as far as the game that they were working on goes, Pavor Nocturnus, aside from this post, there is no mention of this game outside of the blog, which could either mean that the project is being worked on behind the scenes, or the project might have also ended up like FSMR and got put permanently on hold or cancelled. And that's where the story ends. After nearly 14 years of work, after being picked up and dropped off, after the project being cancelled and then revived, FSMR finally met its end in 2022. And it really sucks. Now, yes, hearing the story of a fan game being started and then dropped is nothing new. It happens nearly every day. A person gets an idea for a game, they work on it some, maybe they'll work on it for several years, and they'll inevitably drop it, whether it's because of life, money, job, or anything that might come up. But FSMR felt different. With how many times this game was re-revived, it truly felt like FSMR was going to come out. And with all the promise that it showed, it damn well deserved to be. But sadly, this project ended up getting put on hold. And it's slowly been fading from obscurity as not many people even know of its existence. And it's become one of the greatest examples of a lost remake. FSMR showed so much promise. It could have truly become the definitive way to play Super Metroid in the modern era, but sadly, it slowly faded away. And now, as far as anyone else knows, FSMR is perceived to be dead. And the truly depressing part about all this is the simple fact that almost no one even knew of FSMR's existence. Unless you just know what you're searching for, it's near impossible to just stumble across FSMR's blog post, much less the original screenshots from the Deviant page that released back in 2009. I personally have never seen anyone else talk about this title online, and as far as I'm aware, the video you're watching right now is the first and only video documentation of FSMR's development. Maybe if more people knew of this game's existence, it might have changed the outcome. Maybe if circumstances were different, development would have continued. But sadly, that's not the timeline we live in. So that just leaves us with one question. Will we ever get a Super Metroid remake? Well, I think we will. But it's going to be a very, very long time before we see it. There is still hope that the FSMR team might return. Maybe someone else will pick up the mantle and try their hand at another Super Metroid remake. Though I hope they don't use that title as an acronym, because ASMR just wouldn't work as a good title. Heck, there are even other creators making custom engines that could be the basis of a Super Metroid remake. So it's still highly possible that Super Metroid will one day be given the AM2R treatment. However, like I've already said, it's most likely going to be a very long wait. Especially since Nintendo fan projects have to stay on the down low due to Nintendo's over-excessive use of force when it comes to IP protection. So for all we know, a remake is being created right now, but it's being kept secret from everyone till its release. And I honestly hope one day we do get a full remake of Super Metroid, because there can be so much new added content. A great example of this is actually a ROM hack of Super Metroid known as Hyper Metroid, which added a brand new tile set, an expanded map, and moveset that breathes new life into this classic title. I mean, think about it. What if we got brand new areas that expanded the world of Zebes? What if we got new bosses we got to face? Maybe old Chozo robots that got left behind? We could get a true final battle with Mother Brain instead of the cool interactive spectacle cutscene that we ended up getting. We could get all the fixes and additions from AM2R, like power grip and a snappier movement system. We could get updated and remixed music, as well as adding other features from AM2R into this game, like the passive scan system where we got to learn more about the world around us. They could even take things one step further by adding more in-game lore connecting Super Metroid to the Prime series, maybe showcasing Ridley as a mecha, or maybe referencing that he's a clone or something of that nature, since Ridley is supposed to be dead at this point. Heck, maybe we can get bosses and areas that were exclusive to Zero Mission recreated in a Super Metroid remake to make the world feel that much more alive and interconnected. Heck, they can go as far as add things like the Aeon abilities that were introduced in Metroid Samus Returns and Metroid Dread into Super Metroid. Think of the scan burst replacing the X-ray visor. It would make things so much easier for upgrade collection. So much could be done with the Super Metroid remake, it is insane. And if any game deserves a modernized upbringing and a re-release, it is definitely Super Metroid. And I so badly want a remake of this title. And it's also kind of the reason why I'm making this video, because I want more people to know the story of FSMR. Now, I know making a video like this is a bit of a double-edged sword, as if this video ever got popular enough by some stretch of the imagination, and Nintendo ever saw it, there's always a risk that Nintendo could send them a DMCA takedown, which would truly kill FSMR for good. But at the same time, the project is already perceived to be dead, and maybe this video could possibly help revive it once again, though there is no guarantee of that. Furthermore, for anyone that wants to read more on FSMR and go more in depth with its development, I will of course link Kenji's Deviant page as well as both of the FSMR blogs down in the description below. I'll also go as far as to link both of the videos that show in-game footage of FSMR, because even though it's a bit rough around the edges, it did show some serious promise. So that way people can learn more about the story of FSMR and give it the love that it definitely deserved. Heck, maybe you or a friend might even become inspired by FSMR's story and try your own hand at a Super Metroid remake. So, one way or another, as time goes forward, I think it's more than likely that this lost remake will eventually be found and shown to the world. Maybe Nintendo will finally create a true official remake of Super Metroid, or maybe Mercury Steam will use the Metroid Dread engine to recreate Super Metroid for the modern era. Or maybe the original FSMR team will come back one day, or someone else will pick up the mantle and take on the challenge of a Super Metroid remake. And finally, us members of the Metroid community, as well as fans of this series, are very well known for one major thing, and that's patience. We waited 8 years to see Metroid Prime finally release. We waited 7 years to see Metroid Return after Other M. We waited 19 years for Metroid Dread to finally continue the story from Metroid Fusion, and now we're still waiting for Metroid Prime 4. So eventually, no matter how long it takes, we will wait till this lost remake is found once again.